Happy Wednesday to you. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to you and yours. It's Mike Opelka in for Vince Coglianese on the Vince Coglianese Show. And every day we just look at all of the news that's pouring out. And some days it's a pretty steady flow. And then days like today, it feels like a fire hose has been opened. And there is just so much to get to. Hope we can get to all of it. I think one of the biggest and most important stories of the day is the breaking story that some of the people who've been nominated for Donald Trump's cabinet appointees for other positions have been targeted by what is being called, in a quote, violent un-American threats, close quote. The story is one that is unfolding as we speak. That nearly 12 of President-elect Trump's nominees, people that are supposed to be critical parts of the incoming administration, have been targeted. And that word is correct in its use, targeted, by violent, un-American threats to their lives and those who live with them. Wow. And there will be a law enforcement response. Now, the things that they're talking about, bomb threats, swatting. If you don't know what swatting is just awful. It's more than just putting your home address out there on the internet and telling people, hey, this is where this person lives. It would be a shame if something happened to them. There are times when people will call 911 and claim that they are you or a person in your home, and they are being victimized by either domestic violence or a break-in, which will cause SWAT teams to arrive. It is a horrible crime that should get more attention and more serious penalties, in my opinion, and deserves to be at the top of the priority list when we talk about putting heavy criminal penalties on these people. The bomb threats alone are enough to just ruin your life. You have to leave. There are people who have had to leave where they live because of these kinds of things. Correct me if I'm wrong, and somebody will. I believe Tucker Carlson had to change his life and move and get out. And this is quite disturbing. Lee Zeldin, the guy who almost won the gubernatorial race a few years ago. Lee Zeldin, who, again, remember, he was attacked as well in public. Lee Zeldin actually is posting online and talking about the threats to his life. A pipe bomb threat targeting me and my family at our home today was sent in with a pro-Palestinian themed message. My family and I were not at home at the time and are safe. We are working with law enforcement to learn more as this situation develops. We are thankful for the swift, I'm guessing, action. My computer just refreshed. The swift actions taken by local officers to keep our family, neighbors, and local community safe. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable by any member of society. Because you lost, because your team lost, you are going to start throwing out threats and trying to destroy the lives of people. Remember, we were told for weeks and weeks and weeks, maybe even months and months and months before the election, by the members of the mainstream media, and in some cases by Democrats, highly placed Democrats, that Donald Trump was an existential threat to democracy. That Donald Trump would be a fascist, that Donald Trump would be a dictator, that Donald Trump would target his political enemies with violence. And we talked about it all the time. We talked about the adage, you point a finger at me and there are three pointing right back at you. And now we're seeing this is coming true. We're seeing this. The only thing the left is saying they're worried about is the fact that they might get fired because their jobs are extraneous. They're worried that DOJ, the Department of Government Efficiency, might look and say, hey, we got too many people here. After all, Elon Musk bought Twitter, fired about 70 to 80% of the people, and the thing is still running quite well. I remember the predictions. Oh, it's gonna crush and fall in a matter of days. And here we are well past a year, and Elon Musk is doing quite well. And remember all of those big companies that said, well, we're going to leave if Elon Musk buys it. Disney, IBM, Apple, they're all returning back. Why? Well, they're businesses. They want to go where the crowds are. They want to go where the consumers are. Just amazing to me that these threats against the politicians are not given as much time as the worried and fearful government employees, many of whom have not returned to their offices since the pandemic. They're pretending not to work from home as opposed to pretending to work from the office. It truly is a disturbing thing. And let's go back and remember the other times there was violence. Chuck Schumer calling for violence against the members of the Supreme Court because they didn't want babies being killed. I'm telling you, I might have that clip. I should pull up Schumer screaming. And the people that were pounding on the doors of the Supreme Court. And the death threats that went to the homes of the justices themselves. It's not the conservatives. It's not the Republicans. It's always the left, the extreme reactions. They are the ones that we have to be worried about and be mindful of. And it's not always the crazy violent reactions as well. I present to you a gaggle of angry Democrats who gathered on the shores of Lake Michigan today. Why? They wanted to scream. Yes, they're out there screaming at the water, which I guess is better than them threatening the lives of potential members of a presidential cabinet or appointees to government positions, screaming at the water. Well, we saw this the first time Donald Trump was elected. Remember that eternal meme of that one young woman who's just screaming at the sky. Now they're gathering and yelling at lakes. You can't make this stuff up, and it is entertaining. At least it is to me. Maybe I'm the only one. You're welcome to join the conversation, of course. 888-630-9625. Let's check in with Ron in Northwest D.C. Hello, Ron. Welcome to the program, sir. What's up?
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Yes, thank you so much. I love this show. It's so informative, and it seems like every time I come to listen to it, I come back a lot smarter.
Well, that's very kind.
Vince
is one of my favorite hosts around. This is what I do. I sit in for people around the country, and Vince is someone who is just amazing. And Chris Plant and I, truth be told, we go way back to childhood, so I have deep roots here at WMAL.
I've met Chris Plant at an event for Fisher House before the pandemic. And I was a homeless vet at the time. And Chris offered to buy me something to eat in the courtyard. And genuine person. He's everything he is on the radio, a real person. But anyway, sir, what I'd like to I don't understand is, since when does the public servants become no longer a public service, but actually the public is serving them? And what I'm saying in that is that you have people that come into Congress that have maybe just the same paycheck we have, but come out multi-millionaires such as Biden and Obama.
Well, Ron, you bring up a really good point, and we are hearing all kinds of rumblings out of D.C. that this administration is going to do some serious investigation into the way elected officials suddenly go from making a healthy salary at $174 to $200,000 a year to being worth 10, 20, $100 million in a matter of a short period of time? How did AOC go from being a humble bartender to where she is? And she's worth a lot of money. Now, some of them point to a book and say, well, I got a book deal. And some of them are saying, well, I'm just very good in my investments. And Nancy Pelosi comes to mind. And there are names on both sides of the aisle. But this is a really good point. And I will predict to you right now, I believe we are going to see a reckoning when it comes to the elected royal class in Washington, D.C. And there has to be a way to prevent senators and members of the House from trading on inside information, because they're the ones who are writing the laws that benefit these companies. And it just can't be right. And it has to be dealt with. You're right on that, Ron. And I do believe we're going to see something on that. Can I ask you a question or two? I have a question for you.
Sir.
Yes,
sir.
What branch of the service were you in, sir?
I joined the same branch that my father did. I joined the Navy.
All right. My dad was in the Navy, too. And he enlisted before being drafted. He was a man who made the choice to be in the Navy. And how long did you serve, Ron?
I served for 4 years. I enjoyed it. I'd do it all over again. But being away from America did kind of bother me. So I guess I'm more of a landlubber.
Well, that's okay. That's all right. Landlubbers need love, too. Now, you mentioned you met Chris Plant when you were a homeless vet. How is your living situation now?
Actually, after all the stuff that I had to go through, I finally got a place in this year.
Okay.
And I have to give congratulations to the Eleanor Holmes office, because they were putting me through the circles, and I called their office and everything straightened up. So I have to give props where it is.
Well, that makes me feel good. Eleanor Holmes Norton, the D.C. rep who doesn't have a lot of power, gets a lot of heat because she oftentimes makes a lot of noise against the GOP. But if her office helped you, that is a thing worth mentioning and thanking them for. Any one of our vets who is not given priority ahead of the people who've come here illegally really bothers me that our government can't find it in their hearts to do that. You pledged to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and we should never forget that. And we should always stand up for you. So I'm glad. So I'm happy. This is going to be a good Thanksgiving for you then, I hope.
Oh, yes. But, sir, I'm also disappointed in the fact that we are on the bottom of the food chain as American citizens, because it seems like illegal aliens are coming in this country with no money, but yet they're living high off the hog.
I think that's about to change, Ron. I think that is about to pivot. And I believe that in 6 months, you're going to see a big difference in the prioritization of the people here. And it's going to focus on citizens, especially on those who serve this country. And so from everyone here at WMAL, thank you for your dedication and service to this country. And I'm really happy that it looks like things are headed in the right direction for you. And I hope this is the best Thanksgiving in a long time for you, sir.
Well, if Donald Trump can do his time without interference with all this bogus boogeyman stuff from these fake charges of all this stuff that comes up, if you had a chance, there's a paper in D.C. called the Washington Informer. It's mostly catered to black people. And they put on the first week of the election of him winning is that the people elected a convicted felon. And I'm afraid, I'm worried that they're going to harp on this like they did his last term of 4 years of trying to put obstacles.
Well, we'll see.
And he has so many good plans, such as he also had the VA accountability bill.
Yes, he did.
When he was there.
He did.
And it seemed like it went to the wayside after he left. And I can only think that the Biden administration is part of that.
Well,
also, he talked about not taxing people off their Social Security because it's already been taxed when
You're right, and that's one of the things we're going to look forward to seeing. Ron, I'm up against the clock. I have to take a break, but God bless you, sir, and thank you for being there. It is very, very much my honor to make your acquaintance. One of the greatest organizations in this country, the Fisher Houses, and I'm so proud this station is affiliated with and constantly supports their efforts. It is 4:27, and it is Thanksgiving Eve. Mike Opelka in for Vince Coglianese. I barely have time to get into some of the clips that I want to share with you, so I'm going to go back to the phones real quickly. Let's see if we have time to grab a call here from Arthur in Leesburg. Hello, Arthur. Welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Well, thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to remind people that if you're a communist, has a very different connotation and definition. So to say that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy as they define it is true. Because if you remember the Democratic Republic of Germany, the Democratic Republics of Uzbekistan, and all the other places, they have a problem.
Yeah, it's a little different definition than when the communists start talking about democracy. You know, mob rule is not what I call democracy. But the Democrats, they seem to be fond of it. We have so much more to get to today. It's Mike Opelka. It is the Vince Coglianese Show. And, of course, this is WMAL, trying to make sense of the news. It is 4:35 on a Wednesday. Feels like a Friday, Thanksgiving Eve, if you're lucky enough to have the next couple of days off. Good for you. I hope you're thankful. And I hope you're getting together with family and friends and you understand the importance of the holiday and the importance of trying to bring people back into the family, back into the posse, if you will. We've been talking about a lot of things today. We talked about Kamala Harris's crazy video she put out that sounds like she's not exactly sober. If I had pulled her over driving on the road and I were the member of law enforcement, I would have definitely asked for a field sobriety test. I'm just saying, that's me. Maybe there was nothing going on. Maybe she's still distraught after losing an election that she thought she believed she was going to win. We talked about immigration, and we played a clip from Tom Homan about what he's planning on doing with the border and how he is going to make sure America's a safer place. And I cannot wait. I, for one, cannot wait. And it looks like yesterday, the story about the tariffs and Donald Trump's plans to put a 25% tariff on everything coming in here from Mexico and Canada unless they straightened up. The left went apoplectic yesterday in the media. The left media went apoplectic saying, oh, it's going to make everything cost more money. It's going to be more expensive. No, that's only if they don't stop the problem. But more than likely, they will want to stop the problem. And that's part of the genius of it. Tom Homan, of course, barking very clearly about what will be done with governors and mayors who decide not to cooperate with a federal agency that's trying to get criminals out of the country. And it is a problem. And I think one of you actually called in on that very subject at 888-630-9625. Before I get into my next topic, which I know you're all going to want to weigh in on, let's check in with Ross in Front Royal. Hello, Ross. Welcome.
Hello there. Long-time listener. Always enjoyed doing this. I got a real quick question because I'm not a smart guy. Isn't obstruction a felony? And if it is a felony, there was the same charges they gave to the people on January 6th and others. We had raids in which were televised on CNN, and, you know, not necessarily this case, but like for Roger Stone and other government officials that were saying, are we going to have the same thing for these governors and mayors that are obstructing justice? Because they should be arrested publicly for committing a felony.
Well, you know, Tom Homan, I think, was bringing this up, and I'm going to try and jump into this clip here because I think he was quoting the law that is in play here. Let me jump into this clip from last night with Ingram.
Not going to do it, we'll do it for him. But you can stay. You can not help, but don't impede us, and do not knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE, because that is a felony. And we got one hell of an attorney general coming in, Pam Bondi. I think she'll read that statute the same way I do it. I'm not a lawyer, but I can read, and we're going to have consequences for people who violate the law and try to prevent us from doing our job.
Yeah, you're right. Tom Homan said it is a felony, and he's kind of looking forward, Ross, to having Pam Bondi in there as the Attorney General. And I think you just need to make an example of one of these governors or mayors, and the rest will fall in line. You know, that's kind of how that works. So I'm looking forward to him being sworn in and taking office and taking names, as it were. But thank you. That's a very good point. Appreciate it, Ross. Thank you. We're also... Thank you, sir. Happy Thanksgiving. There is a discussion going on right now, and I think it's particularly important here in Washington, and it relates to the football team. And I'm unfortunately a Chicago Bears fan. It's in my DNA. I can't change it. I've been a Bears fan all my life. Yes, I know what happened to my Bears the last few weeks. It's just been embarrassing. But the Washington Commanders are apparently planning to change their name back to the Redskins. And it's starting to get a little attention.
We were calling out leaders on a case of really woke gone wrong. The irony that they were canceling Native American culture as the DEI movement went way too far.
This is Senator Steve Daines from Montana, who is also on the Homeland Security Committee on Fox News, talking about the possibility of changing the name back.
Look, this is honoring a Blackfeet chief who was born in Montana. He's highly esteemed. The Blackfeet tribe of Montana, their current chairman and the tribal council signed a letter in strong support to bring the logo back. It honors Indian country. So we've had good discussions with the NFL and with the Commanders. There's good faith negotiations going forward that's going to allow this logo to be used again. Perhaps revenues going to a foundation that could help Native Americans in sports and so forth. We're making good progress. And based on the good faith negotiations, I made the decision to support this bill yesterday in the committee.
I know that they put a plaque up at Northwest Stadium honoring Wetzel and the logo. It'd be great to see it back on the helmets again. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
So that was on Fox News.
We were calling out
hang on a second, Senator. That was on Fox News. And the reality here is I don't think it's anything having to do with honoring the Native Americans. Is it skeptical for me to say that I believe this is all driven by money? I believe this is the NFL saying, hey, we're not selling any jerseys. We're not selling any hats. We're not selling anything that says Commanders. And let's face it, it is a capitalist system here. And if you're not selling merchandise, it's not a good thing. The NFL doesn't react to any real pressure other than pressure of money. So what do you think? You think it's going to come back? And if the logo comes back, does that mean the team name returns? Or will it stay the Commanders with the old Redskins logo? Am I even allowed to say that? 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Kind of a cultural question. You know, if you go deep into history, the Redskins were from Boston, and it truly was honoring one of the original coaches who was a Native American. So this is a situation where I believe there is justification to return the name. And if the league benefits from it, if the team benefits from it, the sales of jerseys, etc., you know it'll be a slam dunk. But I'm wondering if it goes any further. And you're welcome to weigh in on that as well. I still have so many other things I want to get to today. And by the way, about just less than an hour from now, Scott Pressler is going to join us, and Scott Rasmussen is going to be here at the top of the hour next hour. So we've got a couple of Scotts coming up in the final hour of the show, and we'll get into a lot more political discussions. This was a little more of a social discussion as I look at the madness around some of the sports leagues and this crushing of what has been an iconic symbol in the interest of social justice, as we were being told. Oh, we're just doing it to make good, and nobody really wanted it. I'm betting it's back as soon as 2025, and maybe sooner if the money is right. We will see. We will see. We will see. Earlier in the show, we discussed some of the blame storming that's going on inside the remnants of the Kamala Harris campaign, and it appears that members of the campaign are getting out and trying to say, "Hang on a second. Oh, we were misled. We didn't know." For example, David Fluff, or Pluff, whatever his name is, I want to call him Fluff. It's David Pluff, who's been around, who's been consulting Democrats for quite some time, is trying to say that Kamala Harris was never ahead of Trump. And it was all Bravo Sierra. And I'm not sure I quite believe him.
When we got in, my recollection is some of that snapped back, but we were behind. I mean, I think it surprised people because there was these public polls that came out in late September, early October, showing us with leads that we never saw. It was just basically a race that in the battlegrounds was 46-47, 47-48. So that's not where we started. We started behind. She was able to climb out. I think even after the debate, we might have gained, 0.51. It wasn't a race that moved a lot. And so I think when you think about our own internal analytics, if you have Wisconsin at 47-47, or Pennsylvania 48-47 Trump, let's say, which I think is where we had it at the end, you've got to have undecided break your way more than your opponents, and you've got to get a little benefit from turnout, which we weren't able to do.
I think they're just trying to cloud the reality and trying to say that it's not my fault. It's not my fault. All right, you guys have got opinions on this. Let's check opinions on the Washington Redskins issue. Scott is in Castleton. Hello, Scott. Welcome to the program. Where do you stand on this?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. My ex-girlfriend used to work for a nonprofit partnership with Native Americans. She was graphic designer, and most of the pictures you see, in her work, all the Native Americans were wearing Redskins hats or hoodies or jerseys, and they were disappointed when they changed the name because that assimilated them, to the rest of us. It made people aware they were there, and they took it as a pride thing that a sports team would honor them by using Redskins and the logo. And the other thing about the merchandise, if they do change the name back to Redskins and that Commander's gear wasn't selling, well, all of a sudden that Commander's gear might get a little more valuable and might sell a little bit.
I wonder, maybe they'll accept a trade-in too. Scott, wouldn't that be interesting? The NFL will say, well, if you have a Commander's hat or a Commander's jersey, we'll trade you. We'll trade you back for a Redskins. I wonder, that might be considered politically incorrect. Like I said, I'm a Chicago Bears fan.
I don't know, but
I'm also a Chicago
I think
hockey fan. And the Chicago Blackhawks logo, to me, is the greatest logo in sports. And people will not agree with me, of course. But that one never seemed to get in trouble, which is amazing to me.
Right. Well, there's other teams like the Braves and, there's other, the Chiefs.
Well, they changed the Cleveland.
There, so.
They changed Cleveland to the Guardians, and I just can't get used to calling them the Guardians, the baseball team in Cleveland. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But maybe they'll have to change back too. If this happens, you have to wonder if the Redskins come back, if the Commanders go away and the Redskins come back, will the Guardians go back to being the Cleveland Indians? I wonder. Maybe that's what the fear is, that it will spark a complete reversal. And I don't think the wokesters will let that happen. But thank you, Scott. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Hope you have a great holiday with your family.
Bye.
There he goes. Let's grab one more. Donna's back in Frederick. Hello, Donna.
Hi, I just wanted to say, I really do hope they go back to the Redskins. I actually know someone who was interviewing with them, and that individual said to me they hope that they do go back to the name, and we have Indian lineage in my family, so that would be nice. I think it's a great way to honor our heritage, and I think all the teams need to go back to normal, as Chris Plant always says. Remember normal? Well, that time has come, and I really hope and pray that we take it all back. All this woke nonsense is just that.
The pendulum appears to be swinging back to the direction of normal, Donna, and it always does. And thank you for being there. You've been a big fan of this station and all the shows. I hope you and yours have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you, my friend. It is 4:55 on this Thanksgiving Eve. Mike Opelka in for Vince Coglianese. The subject of the Washington Commanders versus the Washington Redskins is still raging. And there is clarity on the topic being brought by one of you in the vast and unpaid resource department. Let's check in with Aaron on line 3 in Frederick. Hello, Aaron. You want to clarify something for us?
Yeah, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir. I'm appreciative that you're taking the time to make sure we get it right.
Yeah, I saw this article earlier, and I read it very carefully. And all it is that they are trying to rehabilitate the logo. So what they've been doing since they turned into the Commanders, they've been going back in and even blurring out the helmet logo in old videos and things of that type just to totally eradicate it. And this is just about rehabilitating that. They're not in any way, shape, or form contemplating going back to being the Redskins, using the name or the logo on the field. It's just about not canceling it.
Wow, that's interesting. So they want to prevent the whitewashing of history, which is always something that bothers me. But so there's no thought to bringing back the logo at all.
Maybe on throwbacks or something.
Very interesting.
They're not changing the name.
Yeah, that would be a tough one to do because they'd be admitting defeat on that. But the dollar will speak, so maybe they'll sell throwbacks.
I wouldn't like to see them go back to it, but they're not.
Well, I appreciate the clarity. Thank you very much, Aaron. Have a happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. And that kind of makes sense, It oftentimes is about making sure you get the maximum cultural output from a topic like this. I'm choosing my words very carefully here. Very, very carefully. All right, the third hour of the show is Scott-filled, not scot-free. It's Scott-filled. We've got Scott Rasmussen and Scott Pressler both joining us in the final hour of the Vince Coglianese show, so you have to stick around too. It's Mike Opelka in for my friend Vince Coglianese on WMAL.